Close enough. All right. Everyone, welcome to the postponed regular meeting of the Durham Planning Board it was supposed to be February 7th, it's now February 15th. And we'll begin, first thing to do is determine a quorum, and there are 5 of us, so we have a quorum. And then amendments to the agenda is next. Anyone have amendments to the agenda?
John, you wanted to add an item to set the date of the
I do.
public hearing for the land use ordinance.
I was gonna let them go first. Is there anybody?
That's fine.
So what I'd like to do is, so we don't have to have the discussion with those folks who are here, is item number 7, discuss a date for the public hearing for the land use articles. Pick that date. You're gonna stay, so, okay. So we'll go ahead and while you're thinking about it, 2 possible dates where this is open are the 13th and 20th of this month. So the next step is acceptance of the minutes of the prior meetings.
I move to accept them as presented.
Second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, raise a hand. Yeah, you can't vote. You have to abstain, Mark. Mark abstains. So it's 401. Right, did I count that right? Yeah, 401. Next is information exchange on non-agenda items. Town planner?
Okay, just to update everyone, the select board reviewed the draft land use ordinance amendments proposed by the planning board at their February 6th meeting and passed unanimously the housing and the solar amendments for placement on the town meeting warrant. And then they tabled the fees proposal. And they then met last night. And
No, last week. Wasn't it last week? Monday?
I'm sorry, yes, you're correct, last night was the budget committee. They met last week and they changed one word, and that was from reviewing the fees annually to reviewing the fees periodically, which they pointed to the inconsistency between the original warrant article that said that the select board would be able to adjust the fees periodically. The text of the ordinance said annually, and so there was some confusion. Can they only do it once a year, or are they allowed to do it more frequently? And so they made that change. And the second change was they added an umbrella provision that gives them the authority to adopt any fee associated with administration of the ordinance. So the draft that we have prepared listed all of the fees in the current ordinance, including ones that were being added, but it limited it to those named fees. This umbrella provision, which is another subsection of that passage in Article 18, now says they have the authority to establish a fee for any administrative service called for by the land use ordinance. So they couldn't adopt a fee for something outside of that, only for what's in the land use ordinance. So that they made that change, and then they're going to go forward with that in addition to the other 2. Secondly, I wanted to bring up to date that, as I understand it, and John has been and Alan have been on the budget committee, but I understand that the town meeting warrant will include $10,000, or I'm not sure the exact amount, money for the codification, digital codification of the ordinance. And then the last thing I wanted to update you on was the fact that we have reopened communications with the Greater Portland Council of Governments on doing a master plan, visioning plan for the community facilities that are located this building, the town hall, and the Eureka Center, and the ball field, in terms of coming up with a plan, because there's been all kinds of ideas and plans to say different facilities have different needs. This will kind of pull them all together into a master plan that will say, okay, here's how this is all going to work, connections between these properties, and those sorts of things will be looked at. So it'll be a visioning process starting probably right after the town meeting, and probably the first step with that will be for the consultants, GP Cog, to come in and do a presentation to the select board and the planning board, basically explaining the project and kind of kicking it off.
Is there a cost to that?
There is a cost of $8,000 for GP-COG. They have got a grant from the Maine Department of Transportation to cover the cost of this study. And one of the things that will come out of it is looking at the intersection up here. That's how it kind of ties into
Transportation.
and parking, access onto the state highway, pedestrian circulation within these areas, which is non-existent right now. So that's how they justify that it qualifies for MDOT money. And depending on the results of that, if there's a desire of the town to move forward, that study would then put the town in a position to apply for other grants for actual design work and or construction.
So they went for the grant, received it, and then came to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. It was actually the town manager that kind of got the ball rolling on that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Two things kind of following up on George's, or one that I can think. The warrant will include 4 additional hours of George's time. So right now it's 20 hours a week, multiplied times 52, and it'll be 24. But as a reward for whatever, for the extra 4 hours, I understand you're gonna take responsibility for or work with the appeals board.
That has been discussed.
Okay, so, there's no such thing as a free extra 4 hours. So, having said, any residents, other than what's on the agenda tonight? Non-residents, I don't see any. With that, we will get into continuing business, which is completeness review of site plan review application for expansion of the Juliet has to recuse herself. But while she's doing that, I'll read it. Completeness review of site plan review application for expansion of the leisure campground for 40 RV sites, map 2, lot 13, and there will be no public comment. And the reason Ms. Kaplinger had to recuse herself is she is an abutting neighbor. So I think, Mr. Thabarge, would you kick us
Yes.
off with the,
Yeah, I had provided agenda notes to the board and the applicant that indicate that on December 6th was the last time the board reviewed this application, and you determined that the application was incomplete, and you had a list of deficiencies that needed to be addressed. The first of those was under section 8.5.c, which calls for 10 copies of full-size site plan. The applicant has submitted full-size copies of an existing conditions plan dated August 15th, 2023, revised 12/28/2023 by Mainland Development Consultants of Livermore Falls. And note 16 on that plan says that the purpose of the plan is to show a partial existing conditions survey and campground expansion concept of Durham Leisure Campground. No ordinance review, engineering design, or permitting was completed by Mainland. The second
Mr.
note,
Thabarge?
yes,
So Mr. Thabarge will go through the list, and then we'll ask you all to sit up here, and you can talk to the comments.
okay, so the second deficiency noted in the December 6th letter was that the applicant needed by ordinance to submit a copy of septic system test pit logs by a qualified professional. The applicant resubmitted the preliminary soil evaluation test pit logs from June 21st, prepared by Bonnie Cobb, who's a licensed soil evaluator. Those were provided for the conditional use review. The item C of the list of deficiencies was indication of the zoning district. The applicant indicated that it's now on the plan, and I did verify that it now specifies that the zoning district is rural, residential, and agricultural. The section 8.512C says that the applicant is required to show all drainage ways and proposed existing and proposed culverts. The applicant has requested a waiver of this requirement, both for a stormwater plan, and he stated in the application that he will put culverts where they are needed during construction. Item E on the list was the main traffic entrance site distances. The board directed the applicant to provide qualified professional measurements on the plan. The applicant has stated, quote, it's in the printout, on the printout. The applicant submitted a graphic diagram titled Durham Leisure Campground dated 12/12/2023 with a note at the bottom that reads, The Maine Department of Transportation provides this publication for information only. Reliance upon this information is at the user risk. It is subject to revision and may be incomplete depending on changing conditions. The department assumes no liability if injuries or damages result from this information. This map does not support emergency dispatch. There is no indication on the diagram indicating the project location, entrance location, or available site distances on along Route 136 at the project entrance. The applicant has not submitted measurements by a qualified professional surveyor or engineer to verify that the project entrance has safe site distances on Route 136 for the posted speed limit of 50 miles per hour. Item F of the board's incomplete list was waste disposal types and facilities submitted by qualified professionals, HHE 200 and septic system design. The applicant is requesting a waiver of the requirement to submit the engineering plans for the semi-public wastewater treatment system that will serve 40 RV sites. He submitted an engineering proposal for a design for systems with a capacity of 5,000 gallons per day, dated December 21st, 2023. And I did bring to the board's attention that that proposal specifies what type of site analysis work they're going to do for test pits where the leach current proposal will be for the leach bed, as opposed to the preliminary test pits. And this unsigned engineering proposal further agrees to provide an engineered system design for serving the proposed 40 new sites per the state rules. And I did also note that that same proposal indicates that the system will be designed to, per the applicant's plan, to expand the existing campground by 40 model trailer sites which have sanitary septic service for each site. And I suggested the board may want to clarify, because you were under the understanding during the conditional use review, there were two types of units in the park. Some were what they call park model trailers, and the others were the standard RVs. And so this system appears to be, based on the consultant's proposal, to be being designed for camp model trailers for the entire project. So you may want to have some clarification on that point. Item G was the proposed landscaping and buffering. The applicant is continuing, as he has before, to propose that the existing treat condition of the campground will provide adequate landscaping and buffering. H of the list was the location and details of signage. The applicant has stated that the location of signage and speed signs is on the printout. Details are on the legend. The existing conditions plan does show a stop sign at the project entrance on 136 and 3 internal stop signs at intersections inside the project, and it shows 4 5-mile-per-hour speed limit signs on that system. He submitted an updated campsite numbering diagram showing site 66 next to site 8, which is across the road from site 16. The planning board should ask for comments from the fire chief as to the need for a logical numbering and campsite signage sequence to locate sites quickly in emergencies. Item I of the list, subsection 8.5C21, calls for a lighting plan showing the location and type of area lighting. The application indicates that location is on the printout. The legend on that plan contains symbols for utility poles and overhead and underground electrical lines. There are no symbols for light fixtures, and none could be located on the plan. There is one of those poles says light pole, but that's as close as I could find to anything indicating the lighting. No specifications for any light fixtures with illumination levels have been provided per the ordinance. The applicant has stated that they run a dark sky campground. All the kids are on site after dark from mid-July to mid-September. They have minimal lighting for dark sky to deter brown-tailed moths from coming to the area. The applicant submitted information sheets about brown-tailed moth mitigation, and I did point out that the standards for lighting in non-residential projects are found in 8.6G. J of the incomplete list indicated a letter from Inland Fisheries and Wildlife on their habitat review. The applicant did provide a letter dated January 16, 2024 from IF&W indicating there are no essential habitats on the project site. Similarly, K, related to the requirement for a review by Maine Historic Preservation Commission, there was kind of conflicting information. One email indicated there were no historical resources on the property. The second email submitted by the applicant stated that it's under review and they will send a letter as soon as they complete their review. Both were dated the same day of December 28th of last year. Erosion and sedimentation control plan submitted by a qualified professional or request a waiver. The applicant is in fact requesting a waiver from the requirements and stated that it's not in the Runaround Pond watershed, which is one of the factors to consider. And he further stated that he is not changing drainage patterns or installing previous, it should be interrupting previous surfaces, I think. M is stormwater plan. Similarly, he's asking for a waiver of that on the same grounds. And then I did point out to the board that the requested waiver form has requests for waivers from subsection C12, C16, C26, and C28 and C29. And the waiver form contains the criteria that the board must judge in granting any waiver from the requirements of the ordinance. And based on the conceptual plan, it appears that they are going to create 32,000 square feet of disturbed area for the road network and another at 1,000 square feet per campsite, which the applicant indicated would be the plan. That adds another 40,000 square feet of disturbance, which then totals approximately 1.65 acres. And according to my understanding in checking the MDP website, if you go over 1 acre of disturbance, you need a state stormwater permit, and they will apply the same stormwater erosion and sedimentation control standards that are contained in our ordinance. And before making any decision on whether to grant the applicant's waivers, I offer a suggestion that the board may want to consider seeking a peer review opinion at the applicant's expense from the town's engineering peer consultants, Goral Palmer, as to whether the project is or is not subject to state stormwater management and erosion control rules. And you may further want to ask the town's consultant whether or not the idea and proposal to create a RV park expansion for 40 sites with a semi-public water and sewer system warrants an engineering design and site plan submitted for board review. And finally, on the peer reviewer track would be to ask this peer reviewer to verify exactly what are the site distances at the project entrance. So I did include in the packet that was sent out 2 weeks ago the draft complete letter and a draft incomplete letter updated for the new submissions. And I've also prepared 5 draft motions for the board to consider if at whatever point you come to a decision on the completeness. The first would be to request that peer review by Goral Palmer on those 3 issues. The second motion would be...
Do you have that?
I will, but I think it's probably better to wait until you have your discussion and the applicant has the opportunity.
Okay.
So I have copies ready for distribution to the board when you come to the point of making a decision one way or the other. But I just wanted to outline the options that I've prepared for you to get something done tonight. So the first draft motion would be to request the peer review and table the item. The second possible motion would be to grant the waivers that are requested based on the record that you have before you. The third possible motion moves to deny the waivers based on the submissions that you've reviewed so far. And then the third set of motions would be to move that the application is complete if you determine in your judgment that you have enough information to determine whether this project does or does not meet the site plan review standards and criteria. And then subsequent to that, that you would, or move to determine that it's incomplete. So the first one would be, do you want a peer review? The second one would be, do you grant the waiver or don't you grant the waiver? And then the third decision point would be to say, is it complete or is it incomplete? And then if you decide that it's complete tonight and want to proceed with the substantive review of the project, I've prepared draft findings of fact that go through all of the submissions and all of the points of the ordinance and give you that opportunity to make a decision tonight if you so choose.
Okay, any questions for George? Next, okay,
Can we received an erosion and sedimentation plan?
Yes, I did neglect to mention that the applicant on Sunday sent a narrative for an erosion and sedimentation control plan, and I did send that on to the board.
So, are they gonna request a waiver for that?
You should get clarification from the applicant.
any other questions for George at this point? If not, we'll hear from the applicant. Okay, folks. Please state your names and address.
Up close and personal here.
Gwen Hewitt, 24 Leisure Lane, Durham.
Ken Hewitt, 24 Leisure Lane in Durham.
Thank you. Okay, kind of a long list that George read off there, and I think since you're kind of if you're asking for waivers or whatever, do you have that list and want to kind of go through your thoughts on what he said there?
Yeah, so I believe it was, what's this here? It's, so the 10 copies are done, right? We got the 10 copies for that. And then we have the requesting a waiver for the septic, so the
We're good?
town.
I'm sorry, I want to just check these off. So we're good on item A, section, whatever it is, full-size site plan? I'm checking.
Again, I just point out, it's labeled an existing conditions plan, not a site plan. And I'm not just nitpicking on the title, I'm saying what is on there is described by their consultant as an existing conditions survey and conceptual plan. It's not a formal site plan.
We're just talking about premise at this point.
Yep.
And then the next one was the septics for the test pits for septic for Bonnie Cobb. I just requested a waiver for that because of timing for that. As far as, I don't know if, I don't see the process of the waivers, I don't know if you know, we're gonna be checking back on the waivers if we have to provide that up front to the board for someone to look over that or not. I don't know how the waivers go. So if I had the stuff in time, because I actually did this in December. I missed the January meeting, and so this was old, so that's why he was getting, you know, we put stuff in after the fact because we got it before, you know, so January came in, we had another one, he was talking about, I don't wanna jump ahead, so we'll just go. We'll just go from here, yeah. So Bonnie Cobb is not she doesn't do septic, she does septic designs, but nothing over 2,000 gallons per day, so I had to get an engineer to do the septics.
Okay.
So this was just saying that you want a test log, so I gave you a test log, and then if you don't accept the test log, we would request a waiver or wait for the plan to come in for an engineered print that would be permitted by the state. So obviously that's gonna have to be approved by the plumbing code enforcement officer or whatever you wanna do for that.
Okay,
in time.
maybe rather than jump around, do we have let's have any questions on it? We'll talk about voting approval or not of the waivers later. Are there any questions on the individual items as we're going through there?
Not yet,
Okay,
not for me anyway.
I guess I have one, and you lost me for a little bit there. Do we have new test pit logs? Is that what you were telling us?
The test pit logs are not, the only test pits we have are from Bonnie Cobb. He did test pits, but they're not in.
Okay,
They're not in yet.
okay, so the new guy hasn't submitted them.
Correct, he's supposed to be coming on the 28th,
Okay, I got you.
yeah. So, but I didn't know if the board wants to waive that and have that approved by the town, or have him come out through with it, cause it's a state engineer. I don't know how you guys wanna handle that one. And wait for that, and I can bring it to you next meeting, or however you wanna handle that one.
Thoughts?
So,
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say,
We'll get
I
back
was
to
just gonna
it.
go to the next one, unless you guys
Keep
have
going.
something, or.
Okay,
Indicating zoning, that's on the map now, it was
Gotcha.
on the ledger, it's 13. Drainage ways, there's nothing that's gonna be over 5% for drainage on the property. We were just gonna put culverts in if we need them during construction phases, that's what I had for that one.
Now, one thing on that,
And that's 12.
whenever we look at anything that's being developed, culverts are indicated where they're gonna be placed. I know it seems like this is a common sense thing to do, but there is nothing, no indication to me on the plan where there might be future culverts.
Yeah, we don't, I mean, I talked to the excavator, and he doesn't, you know, he says he's just gonna put them where he needs them, and he's been pretty good with us when he does the road and stuff like that, as far as on the dozer, he can see elevations and stuff like that. And I said, just put them in where you need them. I didn't, you know, we're not running, you know, it's not really a shoestring budget here. If we need a culvert, we'll just put one in. I don't want the roads to wash out and stuff like that, so.
Right.
And it's, I mean, when you guys walk the property, it's the highest point of the property. It's not, there's nothing for that, but, I mean, we can potentially put a culvert, you know, guess where a culvert's gonna go and put one in there if that's suffices to get through this, you know, check marker box or whatever you guys wanna do.
I would expect that there is a certain leeway, the code enforcement officer would be the one who'd come out and say, you know, he'll do the road inspection. So, I'm hardly a stormwater engineer, but I think there's places that would seem to make sense to me to put one. And so whether you put it, you know, here or 10 feet over or whatever, so that you don't have to take out a big tree, I don't think that's an issue. I think the ground's gonna slope, he's in, somewhere in that general area, we'd like to know you're planning to put a culvert. And it could be just, that is,
Yeah.
Is that what we're
I'm on
asking?
board.
Yeah.
Wouldn't our public works director be involved in that? Because he's involved in,
no, it would be the drive, wouldn't it? You're right, I'm sorry.
right, on
Stand
any
corrected.
road improvement or meeting standards for the town, it's always the public works director that needs to sign off on that. So
So,
I would certainly make sure that Calvin is involved.
So just to clarify, neither the code officer nor the road commissioner has authority
Thank you.
to say a culvert belongs here or not. There has to be a plan saying that the planning board has determined that it must be there for it to be enforceable. So anything they do on site on this, code officer does not inspect roads.
it's true. I misspoke.
Yeah,
private
the road commissioner has no authority to require culverts if they're not on a plan approved by the planning board. So it would just be advisory, it wouldn't be enforceable.
I think what I was referring to is when someone's looking for a driveway permit.
Correct.
That's when Calvin is involved.
He has specific jurisdiction for
Right,
that.
making sure that they're,
Yep.
okay.
Okay. So we'll get back to yes or no on that in a bit.
Okay. All right, and then, so we have main, traffic entrance site distance, and I put it's on the print, so I had the engineer put the 500 site distance on the print, so it should be on there. As far as road distance for the entrance.
I don't, we looked earlier and I'm looking now and I don't see it.
I gave you all my prints, I don't even have one now, right here, 500 feet. And then you got, where's your other one? 500 feet. You only did one, right here, 500 feet from entrance, right here.
Okay, I was a little too close.
Ken, who made that determination?
That was mainland. Mainland, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I did my due diligence and I called up an engineering firm to see about, you know, the scope as far as that goes for, site opening, entrance permits and stuff like that. Not entrance permits, but traffic studies or engineered, traffic studies. And, they said the same thing that the main dot said, that it's not, the traffic count doesn't generate that. And if you guys wanted one, it's 2 months out, it's 8 weeks, and it's $5,500. Yeah, so, I don't know what you guys wanna do about that one.
Can I just clarify in preparing the findings? I do see the 500 feet from the entrance. You're saying that is the site distance on this plan?
Yes,
Okay, and what was the other one and where is it?
it's right here.
Did everybody see where he was coloring in there? Mark,
Okay,
there's another
so
set
that's the
right there if
point.
you wanna-
That's the site
It's-
distance. Thank you.
So I can see this one. Right here, yeah, about that one. Okay.
And so mainland went out, measured, and that 500 feet is clear?
500, that's the 500-foot mark, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, no one's gonna, no one's gonna say, there's never gonna be anything going on and, there's never gonna be an accident in that 500 feet.
No, no,
No one's gonna do
it's-
that.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
I'm like, I wouldn't stick my neck out there and do that either, but.
No, but there has to be a clear line of sight for 500 feet.
Yeah.
And it is, that's
Yeah.
what he's saying
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And we can, I mean, that's something that Calvin can verify too, if you guys feel more comfortable with that, that's very easy for him to go out and do that, I could,
We had an issue down the road from you a little ways where, it wasn't really clear.
Twists and turns,
Yeah, so, okay, go ahead, Ken.
site distance.
Any other questions on site distance?
That's good.
I think we're on waste disposal types and facilities. Section 8.5, C.60.
16, yeah, okay, so, yeah, that falls within the same thing with the septic system design, and that's gonna be permitted, that's just gonna be a stamped system by the state, and that's gonna be inspected by them as well. I don't know the logistics of what he can do as far as plumbing, for codes and stuff like that. If he doesn't inspect engineered systems or nothing like that, I don't think, but I would think he'd probably still do, like piping in the ground or inspect piping in the ground and all that stuff. As far as Allen, I don't know the logistics of that, but it is gonna be an engineered system, designed by them and a state engineered thing, so. But that's gonna be another thing that's just,
Let's hold on that one. just-
it's right, it's like the last question is the same thing with that one, so.
Okay.
Could
On
you,
those-
could you clarify whether that is seasonal or year-round?
What,
The expansion?
The expansion? The expansion is seasonal, yeah.
All of it.
Yeah, I remember, that was the next question, that's further down the road though, but.
We'll hold
get
till
to
we
that
get
one.
there.
Yeah,
My question is, for a subdivision or whatever, who's done the sanitary inspections? We don't really have,
Okay,
they're each
so-
individual, never mind, forget what I was asking. They're
Yeah,
each
there's a difference. You
individual
have
leach.
individual leach fields
thinking of my
as
last
opposed to an
life.
engineered system.
engineered system is
Different.
designed, approved by the state, yeah.
For the septic field.
But, he will do anything under 2,000 gallons a day, Alan would be the one to inspect all that stuff. But that would be an excavation question, I would think, with the excavator guy to see who pulls the permits and stuff like that for that.
Well, I've got all of that. My question is that there's a significant run of sanitary line. And so I wanna make sure that goes in correctly and that it doesn't, when it crosses a water line, it's gotta be there has to be a separation, there has to be a whole bunch of things like that. That is, I think, a question is who's gonna make sure. So they have to be separated horizontally, when they cross, they have to be separated vertically, a certain distance. Who's going to do that for you? I think is the question that I have on this particular, or maybe that comes up later.
It would be the excavation individual. I mean, that would be Alan that would be inspecting all that, I would assume. I mean,
Well, if it's
I-
an
when I
engineered
did-
system, it would show those details, like the engineer would show those
Well,
details.
thank you. I think my question is who's designing it? Is your engineer gonna lay down on this map, say that the sanitary's running on this side, I'm looking for your leach field, but at some point in time, they're gonna cross each other.
Yeah.
So sanitary's running here, it's gonna cross, water's running here, if it's got the right, or wherever it's gonna run. But at some point in time, I would think they would cross.
yeah,
And again, it's this way and that way. And so what you're saying is your guy, whoever that is Maine whatever, or gal,
mainland, yeah.
they will design it so that you've got the correct horizontal distance and the correct vertical distance between
Yeah,
sanitary versus water.
yep,
Well, he's gonna have to
That's-
pull, he's
that's all
gonna have to
gonna be-
pull a permit from the CEO.
right.
And he'll have to approve or have it modified, one way or the other.
Yeah, I think my question was, is somebody actually gonna design that so that, you know, draw, it doesn't have to be.
He's
super-
designing, it's not the leach field, he's designing the whole thing, piping and everything, and it's gonna be something, it's gonna be a build print that you can give it to the excavation company, and he can say, go ahead and do it.
Okay, that answered my question.
Yeah.
And you said that's a state requirement, right?
I don't know if the piping and stuff is a state requirement, but you need certain tanks and certain spots and stuff like that. You need, you know, a certain percentage of gathering and stuff like that. And
Yeah, so it's a
fluid
whole
going.
system, but
Yes.
the whole system is designed.
Yes, and the state,
So-
right, the state does look at that, and it's a stamped print, so it's a stamped design.
Okay, that answered my question on that one, thank you.
All right, I have a quick clarifying question. So in the packet, there is a proposal, an agreement for engineered wastewater disposal design services from Mainland Camp Solutions. You have entered into an agreement then with Mainland to
Yes,
handle that? Okay.
yep, they came out twice already, and he's coming back on the 28th to do, basically set where the fields are gonna be going, and potentially, hopefully go back to the drawing board and design whatever he's gonna do. Well, the design's already done, he's gotta try and figure out how they're gonna be laying down the lots and stuff like that, as far as elevations and all that stuff, so. I'm actually waiting for a piece of equipment to get back so we can dig some test pits and stuff like that to come back, so. Because shovels don't work that well right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Alright, where are we at? Buffering, landscape
I think we're on
buffering?
landscaping,
Yep.
G.
So landscape buffering, I don't know as if we even need a waiver for that, cause there's plenty of landscape buffering. I just put a waiver down because I didn't know if you wanted more buffering than that. But there's nothing within 100 feet and 500 feet from the nearest house and stuff like that. That's pretty much treed all over the place, so.
Actually, that's not on your list of waivers, so I think you're just saying that it meets the requirements.
Oh, okay, alright. I must have the wrong one then.
Yeah, it does, it says on one of these things, request a waiver, okay, headline
Yeah,
through that,
okay.
all right.
Location of detailed signage and speed limits on the sign. So I went through and put stop signs and speed limit signs more aggressively on the campground. We have signs on the buildings and stuff like that, I did, you know, the old stuff, it says don't eat my dust and stuff like that, you know, coming up through. And, that I didn't put on there, but you should have that.
So the plan, maybe we just change it from existing to site plan or something, but whatever it is, this thing has more stop signs and more, is that
Oh,
what
yeah,
you're
I'm
saying?
gonna add a ton more, yeah.
Looks like we've moved on to lighting. Oh, I'm sorry, any questions on that? Okay, we'll move on to, India, I guess it is.
So, lighting, so we don't have much, we have lighting on the old parts of the campground. We have lighting for the parking areas. We have lighting coming up the road.
It's a fire department.
I know, I was like,
It's, yeah,
you gotta evacuate.
it's nothing personal.
So, we try to keep the campground real dark. People like it real dark. They have their fires going. There's always lights on the campers and stuff like that. We don't promote, you know, we have people turn their lights off at night. People don't want blaring lights in their windows and stuff like that at night. So I don't know what the whole commercial scheme is for lighting and all that stuff. We do have motion sensors on all 4 of the buildings as far as going to the bathroom at night, with cameras on them, with motion sensors on the cameras so that it lights up from that. But I didn't know how much we were doing the old, because we're trying to concentrate on the new section. I didn't know how much we should be putting on the old, as far as that goes.
So understand, in the new section, you're asking for a waiver to put in lighting.
Correct, there's
Okay.
no lighting on any of
Okay.
that. There's
Any
no proposed
questions
lighting
on that,
that.
folks here?
Mainly
Juliet.
then fisheries,
No, I'm sorry. J is Juliet in military talks.
inland fisheries and wildlife, we do have was that the question that we had earlier?
No, that one you got, the other one is the one that's questioned.
Oh, okay.
The historic preservation.
Yeah, so that same day, the reason why there was two that day is I texted her in the morning, and then within the afternoon, she actually gave me that thing back. She said, "Oh, we'll send a letter out to you," and I had that letter out, and I sent the packet out in January, and then she actually gave me that response later on in the day. That's why you have that for the second response.
Page 29 and your package there for,
Right.
so it was original request letter and then the
Right.
state stamped it.
And then the state stamped it that same day.
which
That's
I-
why you have the date the same time.
Okay, any questions on that one? Erosion and sedimentation, I think. Section,
28.
looks like it's L.
Erosion sedimentary plan. So I talked to the engineers for the erosion sedimentary, sedimentation plan, and they said they send out the packets. This is what they do for all the erosion sedimentary plans. So when they come up to it, they have it all. If you come up to those issues, that's what they do for the sedimentary plan for each individual project that they do. So. But I didn't have that sedimentary plan when I did this. That's why I sent it out to George afterwards,
Okay.
so.
Any questions? I guess what I'm more used to is on a site plan, erosion control plan, in places where we have concern about erosion, where you're doing work, particularly if, in this case, where it's gonna go off-site. Does it show silt fences? Does it show check dams? Because what I see it here is generally the instructions that would go on the erosion control plan. You know, sediment filter brimmers are the preferred filtering device, but it doesn't, there's nothing that says where they go, stone check dams or anything like that, so, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I would think your engineer could add this to your site plans to show where the boundaries are.
Yeah, it's all gonna be on the property, but they're saying if you move more than, I believe it's an acre and a half, you need a sedimentary plan. So this is a state requirement. You need to have it to pass all my state stuff anyway. It's not a,
But at some point in time, we need to see it.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
before you get your
Yeah,
site
that's-
plan approval, we're going to need to see that.
Unless the request for a waiver is approved.
Unless the waiver is approved.
So, cause I believe the town ordinance says if it's in the watershed or runaround pond area, that it could be waived. So I didn't even know as if we even needed the sedimentary plan as far as the town goes. That's why, when I got it through this, when I got the provisions through that, I said, well, I might as well just give that at the same time, because I need it for the state anyway. So that's why I requested a waiver, and then I said, well, I might as well give it to you, because I have time to put it in, so. but
So you're
that's-
not requesting a waiver?
I'm requesting a waiver if I can get something passed tonight, so yes. Yes and no. I don't know, as I'm saying, I don't know how to do
Okay.
it, you know?
Yeah, we don't have a problem sending it
I
once we
just
get
don't
to
know.
that point.
You know, if,
Some of it's just,
right, if
come.
someone can say, hey, you got the thing, and they pass it off and say, yeah, it's fine, and we don't have to come back, that's fine. I mean, I like you guys and all, but it's been a long,
Moving on.
it's been a long haul. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Before we, yes, stormwater. Alan, we're moving on from erosion control. Do you have any comments? I think summarize what you just said, and we'll, Ken, if you would. Alan just stepped out.
So we're talking about the stormwater. So I ended up giving the stormwater.
I'm back to erosion. If you would summarize erosion, what you just said about, you're willing to do it, but don't wanna hold it up, if I'm paraphrasing you correctly. I'm on
Oh,
erosion.
yeah.
Erosion
So,
control.
right, so I request a waiver for the erosion control if it's not gonna, I don't even remember what I said now, to tell you the truth.
Said you would do it, but you didn't wanna get held up tonight. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, there you go, yeah. Exactly.
other words, when
Yeah,
we
I was
go
just,
through-
if
when
we
we
could
go
get
through it.
Alan to, write off on it later on or something like that, that'd be fine too, but I don't know what the logistics
we're
are.
gonna get all the
and stuff like
information
that,
as we're
so.
going through it, and we can give it to you then if that's something that's.
So
But yeah, it has to be approved by the state, so what I did is I requested a waiver because, it says in the runaround pond watershed, it can be waived, so I was like, well, I don't know if we need it or not, and then it came in, so I said, well, I'll just submit it now, because I need it for the state anyway. So, it's for everybody to look at, but then again, you know, and then Alan asked if we need, you know, do you want a waiver or not, and I was like, well, yes and no, you know.
We haven't vote on it yet. My feeling is that there needs to be one, because, you know, just somewhere, it doesn't have to be really intense or anything like that, but where you're making a cut, what are you gonna reseed? Where, do you need erosion control fences anywhere? So that's my comments for now, but I guess we'll come back to this. So, but I wanted to have Alan hear what you had to say.
Well, can I step back on signage?
You may.
I'm just wondering whether, I'm sorry, I stepped out for a minute, but any specific signage for each individual lot? Was that addressed? And the reason for that is because for safety, if there is ever a need for ambulance getting in there or any fire apparatus or anything like that, they need to know the exact location.
Yeah, the lots are they're all labeled as far as that goes. I think that the question was, when you have sites coming in through here, you had site 8, 16 and 66 in this little area here. This is all existing campground, these are the sites that they were existing. But as far as 66 being next to 16 and 8, is that what you're talking about?
Are you thinking of renumbering them so they're in numerical order?
No,
No.
no, I'm talking, but this is the new section here, we could do 37 to 60, 66 or whatever, it's just not, they're not gonna be in a numerical order anywhere you look at
The
that.
new stuff is in order.
But yeah, this is in order here, but it's just starts 37 this way, and then goes high here, you could go low here and go high here, but that's about the gist of it, you know?
Well, I was thinking of the only other place I know in town is the trailer park, and I would think that they're sequentially numbered for any emergency vehicle to get in there, and that would be my concern, and I certainly would think it would be yours too, that make sure that anybody coming in there can get there as expeditiously as they can.
And that brings up the issue, one of the campsite numbers, but when you get in there, how do you know to go right or left? And let me back up a step. When we did the site walk,
Like one ways and things like
well,
that.
and you talked a lot to Chief, the fire chief.
Yeah.
What was his comments on, because at the end of the day, I think it'd be up to the chief to bless whether he's comfortable. And I think he was asking for, one of the things I remember from that was a detailed site plan. Not to bring up your competition, but COA had a nice plan that they keep in their books and will probably put in their new computers, if approved by the town, that said this is where site 1 is, where 47 is. I mean, Mr. Peterson's got a good point, was these guys are maybe showing up in the middle of the night. So how do they, what helps them get left, right?
Well, yeah, if you come to a fork in the road, is there gonna be a sign saying 1 through whatever is over here, and there's another sign that says what's on this side?
We can do that. I've seen that at campgrounds.
Yeah.
It's not a horrible,
I mean, you
it's
see
not
it
a
in
bad idea.
hospitals.
Yeah, I don't know if you're.
I understand what you're saying. It's almost like go this direction, these are the sites that are
Quickly,
over
yeah,
here
exactly.
and things like that.
Guy pulls in, his headlights
Yeah.
show 1 through 27,
Right.
Yeah.
28 through 30.
And we're gonna probably, as this gets done, have to label everything very carefully anyways, just for people to find the sites, so.
Yeah, we can talk to the chief, I mean, he was real reasonable, I talked to him and he was, he was real great with whatever we had here, but,
He just wanted a copy with
if he, yeah, I mean, if he looks at distances, yeah, it's not, we need to do something. We can
No,
just-
but it's,
We
you
can
make it right
come
when you
this
should
way or-
make it right. He would
Yeah,
tell you
yeah.
probably that minutes matter.
Yeah,
so.
no, I agree, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's,
I'm fine.
okay. Anything else on the stuff in between? We've got letters from Fish and Wildlife, and we've got a letter or a stamp from Historical. So I think we're good on those, Alan. Okay, so we're I think stormwater plan, is where I interrupted you.
Yep. We discussed that, and we were gonna come back to that. You want me to?
The question is, is there a need for detention, retention ponds? Is it sheet flow across areas that, is your main, I'm sorry, whoever's gonna do your design here, will they look at that?
Yeah,
Are they gonna-
there's no sheet flow because it's all impervious areas, there's no impervious areas here.
It's all pervious.
Correct. Not impervious, yes.
But when it rains really hard, I mean, even come by my yard and
Yeah.
see where somebody drove through it and now it's
Yeah.
all standing water.
Yeah.
So the concern is what, if anything, have mainland or whatever they are, whoever's doing it for you. We wanna ensure there's nothing going off and going into streams or, intermittent streams or just barely streams.
Yeah.
And then going off-site, so that's the concern that I have, so, thoughts from others?
Couldn't that be something we'd bring up to them when they design it,
We already gave them the sedimentary plan of what they thought that they would do during construction phases and stuff like that, and what they had, so it's whatever they wanna do.
For erosion control.
Yeah.
So the question is,
Sedimentary
how,
plans. for
how do we
erosion
know whatever runoff there is that's running off, because you'll tear up your drive as unless whoever does it for you is better than the guys who torn up my drive.
control. It's pretty bony over there, there's no, yeah.
That's what I thought too, but it's what I thought.
There's a
it
reason why
was-
there's rock walls all over the place.
I have one on each side of my
North to
drive
south.
and ruts in the middle, so,
No, I understand.
that's
We're in
yeah, that's a concern, so if that water's running down onto Railsboro 136, that is a concern that I've got, but that's probably more erosion control. The stormwater plan is, I think, more, do you need retention, detention ponds? How do you plan to, because a good way to treat it is to let it run across the ground. And you do have, I forget, is it sandy soil? Is it clay? What is the, all rock?
It's all sandy, it's gravel pretty much,
Okay.
it's pretty much all gravel.
Other thoughts, and then about the need for that, like, but I think, okay. Does the ordinance, Mr. Tavares, it says, or request a waiver with calculations per the ordinance.
Correct.
So the ordinance says you can get a waiver, but you gotta show us,
Yeah, just clarify, a waiver is a waiver. It's not if you meet these two, you've met the standard. That's just a minimum determination of whether this is a major project or a minor project. If you consider it to be a minor project that doesn't require a stormwater, two of the factors that you can consider, is it in the watershed of a pond, which would be runaround pond? It's not. And then secondly, is it creating the threshold 5% of whatever it was of pervious surfaces like roofs, tarred driveways? So those are two factors that you can consider in coming to a conclusion. Is this just a minor project where we don't have any concerns about stormwater management? Or is this a major project? And I pointed out that they're disturbing 1.65 acres, which is over the DEP threshold for requiring a stormwater permit. So that kind of counterbalances, it's not in the pond watershed, and they're not creating the percentage of pervious surfaces. So I think you can consider both factors and then decide whether a waiver is appropriate or not appropriate.
but is it even, if it exceeds the maximum, no permit required, so 1.65 exceeds the state's limit for no permit.
That would be another basis on which you would consider granting a waiver. And that's why I recommended that you maybe consult with your peer review engineering firm to determine, because the same issue came up on the Hollowell Road subdivision. The applicants over there stated, oh no, we don't need a stormwater permit. The peer reviewer looked at it and said, oh yes, you do. And then they ended up conceding that they were supposed to get a state permit and they applied for it.
Right, you need a state, I will need to get a state EPA permit for this for stormwater,
Okay,
yes.
so you're gonna have to,
Do whatever
Right,
it takes
so
anyway.
for me to go through the state permitting process, I need to do that. I need to get a permit through the state to get their permit,
Okay.
to get through the EPA.
so you're
But
not.
that's the same thing, but I request a waiver so I can get through this process, so I can start my state process.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
So if it's not getting hit here, it'll be hit.
Because I've still got 2 months or 3 months to get through the state process.
So I'm looking at it as I would grant a waiver on that based on knowing that they're gonna go through that state process because of that
Has to get done anyway.
1.65 area,
Okay.
65 acre.
And it's the same thing with the sewer, with the sewer. The sewer is, still has to go through the state, so and I still have to fill out the paperwork, and then he's gonna sign, the plumbing inspector Alan's gonna have to sign the permit so I can start the state process. But he won't sign the permit until I pass this, so it starts the process for the state all over again. So I can start that process.
So if we did not give the waiver, then you essentially couldn't even,
Couldn't do it.
Get
then.
started, yeah.
Couldn't
And
do it then.
honestly, we wanna open, when we're opening in the spring, we don't want all of our sites flooded, and we
Oh, yeah.
understand that when it, the rain comes, it comes, so we're totally on board with doing whatever
Yeah,
needs to be done so that this is.
We fixed a lot of stuff over there. We fixed the whole main road and put copper dams in that whole thing when we first started, just because it was so awful, so I
Yeah,
don't wanna bother with that stuff.
And I've said this to you before, so don't take offense to this, is trust but verify. So, things can happen down the road, so, and the other thing I wanna clarify is when we're talking about start, we're not, even if you get through the site plan review, the next step, if this gets approved, and then we get to site plan review, it gets approved, still can't start work without the DEP permit and
This
some
is,
other
this
stuff.
is 2025 or something like this before this is finished. This is not.
Has it started?
Well, hopefully not started, but,
No, I mean, that's my point, is you can't start without,
The DEP.
yeah, we need,
there's a bunch, there's other things that
we
you
need to get the
can't.
state, yeah, we need to get, I didn't even do anything with the state yet, so,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's a state licensed facility, so it's not just willy-nilly this and whatever.
I got you, I just wanna make sure that
Yeah.
somebody doesn't
Wouldn't start.
misconstrue that, when you said, we wanna get started.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's
All the
started
other
the
Started
process.
on the next.
So it's two steps through the town, but it's another step through the state, so that you got 3-step process. So we wanna start the
So we're
third
starting that
third
process, yeah.
Step, I should say.
So,
simple.
time-wise, if a waiver is granted, and then you go through and you have an application to the state, is that information must be presented back to the planning board, I would think.
No, not if you give site plan approval.
So how do we?
Unless you make it a condition of approval, that before any building permit could be, or any other septic permit or anything, they would have to come back to the planning board.
What I'm getting, I just wanna make sure that all of those requests to the state have been granted and then everything's been verified.
You wouldn't be able to get a state permit for the campground unless you had all that stuff there. They wouldn't issue you it's a state license, not licensed, but a state facility, so. I
So we
guess,
can't
yeah,
get where we need to
licensed.
start unless that's all approved anyways.
But yeah, so I believe the
Well-
state,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say the conditional use permit, I believe it said with state approval or whatever too. But that's a given anyway, so.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure,
I-
maybe I misunderstood with the code enforcement, you said a code enforcement guy said you can't file for a the
No,
DEP permit until you
Not
get
the,
site.
it's not DEP permit, it's the HHE 200 for plumbing, is what it was. He has to sign off saying.
Okay, I got
That's
that,
all,
all right.
Yeah.
My challenge with the stormwater approval plan is, that we recently did not approve a site plan for a project because they didn't get the DEP, no, it was Corps of Engineer permit.
It must have been
And
a,
DEP
was it a condition?
No, we
No?
wouldn't, no, we didn't approve the site plan until they got, the Corps approval.
That was a subdivision.
Or, it was it was a subdivision, it wasn't a campground. So, I mean, that doesn't mean we have to use that same standard this time.
Well,
But we
they have
need
to,
to
they have to get it anyway, they have to do it anyway, so. But they can't start that process until they get through past us.
Yes, they can. They can apply for their state permits right now. They could have applied back
environment,
in
the DEP permit.
either the stormwater or the septic. There's nothing stopping them from applying to the state.
Or make sure it passes the town before I run to the state, spend more money doing that, right?
That's a decision that you can make and.
Well, yeah, put your money down in there and see how far you go, you know?
Did
Are
you
you
say the
saying that
state
the
is
guy-
gonna require a stormwater
Yes, yeah,
permit?
yeah, because it's over, if you go over an acre of land, disturbed land, I believe, even if it's flat land, I believe, over an acre, you need a stormwater permit.
So you're
Which is
saying, John,
separate.
you wanna see it now?
Well, that's what we require, we required with the other, this is throwing it out there for discussion.
Or Alan floated the idea of you have a condition of approval
That's what I'm
before the
saying.
town permits can be issued by the code officer or the public work, or whoever else has to issue permits. They need to come back to the board and show the board that it has those state permits.
This board.
Yep.
That's the way I would, that would be my recommendation,
I
a
agree with
condition
that.
of approval.
Yeah, before the
Okay.
permit's
And
issued.
it's not stopping them from doing anything.
Okay, so I think we have gone, those are all the waivers and other things. So we need to go back, I guess, in a general discussion. Do we feel that everything has been done on this to move on to site plan approval? Does that sound right?
Make a determination of whether
if
it's
not-
complete or incomplete.
So, thoughts, and then you wanna hand out the options?
When you're
We're ready to
whenever
do
you're
that,
ready.
are there any other questions on
I,
individual?
no, I'd like to see the options.
Okay, I think we're ready for them. And I've got, have you changed them since you emailed it? I've got them.
Thank you, sir.
See, if you become chairman, you get to see them a day or two.
Want me to pass them down?
Just wanna tell you the perks of, being a chairperson, you get to see them early.
Thank you.
Give you some reading material at night, right?
It's what keeps me awake some nights.
Yeah, I'll just walk you down through them just to explain.
Please.
Okay, so the first decision is whether to request an engineering peer review. You've heard, I pointed out 3 potential issues. One would be whether a DEP stormwater plan is required. The applicant has pretty much conceded that that is required and they will do it. So that may be moot. Second was, again, asking for their opinion whether or not this requires an engineered site plan for the whole project, based on their professional experience. And then, and that would look at whether those issues that you were bringing up, John, in terms of the separation of the water pipes and the sewer pipes, the connections for those, are there pump stations that are gonna be required based on the topography, all of that engineering. And then the third would be the field check on the site distances, now that we've gotten clarification that there is 500 feet in either direction. That hopefully satisfies that issue, but you may or may not want the peer reviewer to check that. So maybe you want to dispose of that issue first?
I guess that's probably the easy one. Dave, did somebody just draw 500 feet on this, or do they actually go out and make sure that you, I'm talking about the
Is
site
there a
distance.
graphic scale, you can just like, kind of check it out?
Well, apparently mainland confirmed it. correct?
I mean, the engineer would have done that, I mean, he would have,
Is there a graphic
I
scale
think
on
Kenny,
this?
you just.
probably
Pens,
somewhere.
No, that's,
Right here.
But he should sign it, I mean, he's gonna have to, if the engineer put these on there, I'm okay with the fact that he's put it on 500 feet from the center line of.
it's inch, I believe it's in inches a foot, isn't it?
There's 300. 300 feet right there.
Yeah. So he's
There's 300 feet.
600 plus. Okay, and it's on, so I'm okay with, it's there. That one's checked.
I agree.
So going to A, you've agreed, the applicants agreed that he requires a DEP stormwater plan and permit based on the amount of land disturbance. So that's not something we need to determine because he's agreed, he says yes, he does. The question is, do we want to waive having it before we give him site plan approval, I think. And then whether the construction of a road network and semi-public water and sewer system should require a formal site plan with engineering design of the infrastructure. And if I understand that, what you said is you are, whoever's gonna do this for you, the septic design, will design that,
Uh-huh.
correct? And with all the stuff that I talked about. So then the question is, do we waive it and make it conditional before getting a permit? As George discussed, you have to come back, once you got them in hand, and can we have the code enforcement officer? be
Code
the-
officer doesn't inspect infrastructure projects. If there is inspections required, we would go through the peer inspection.
Yeah, no, I'm
system.
talking about the design, the plan, the engineer.
No, if this is an engineered wastewater system, he will punt to the state.
He's gonna do that, but the question I thought we were asking, one of the comments in here is, do we want to ask to have the design for?
That was what I was suggesting, get input from Goral Palmer, who are engineers, and they could look at the scope of the project and give you qualified opinion of whether they think an engineered site plan is needed or not.
No, I think he's agreed, the applicant has agreed to do that, correct? I mean, what's your
That's a state, that's just, yeah, right, it's
But
already.
you're looking for a copy, is that what?
Well, they're gonna get a copy anyway, once it's done, but, yeah.
my question is, what I'm hearing you say is you're gonna have whoever your designer is, design it, you'll have plans.
Yes,
The question is if we make it conditional upon the permit, the town permit,
Actually, the state permit.
the state permit.
So what you would do is if you're comfortable with what they're proposing, then you would basically grant a waiver or make it a condition of approval that when they have to come back to you with the state stormwater permit, and I think they're also gonna require erosion and sedimentation control plan and the wastewater disposal system design already approved, and that permit will probably specify what they have reviewed. It may just be the septic system itself, or it may be the whole shoot and match. And that way you'd know what they actually reviewed and what the plans were that they approved.
I'll make that motion.
That would be the Allen's
I think
proposal of a
that's what it
condition of
was.
approval.
Yeah, I would.
I hear what you're saying.
I definitely would recommend coming back with a conditional, give this a conditional approval, as long as they're coming back with the DEP stormwater plan and also the site plan for engineering design of the infrastructure.
Okay,
I agree with that.
so I'm looking to see if there's anything else that we need to
Okay,
make
so
it.
that was just on the issue of do you need a peer review? It doesn't sound like you do,
I think that's fair.
of any issue. Okay, so we could just.
That's my agreement.
Okay,
Okay, so then we move to the possible motion 2A, which is to grant the waivers from the submission requirements of C12 for drainage ways, C16 for waste facilities, 28 for erosion and sedimentation control, and 29 for stormwater management. If you go to the condition of approval to come back with the state permits for those items, then you don't need to grant any waivers.
okay. So if I'm understanding this, if we want to do this, we would make a motion to approve, to say that it's complete.
Okay, so, actually, yes, that will be after the next one. So, on the issue of the waivers, you can either decide that they don't need waivers for any of these things, and you're not gonna make it a condition of approval that they have to come back with those. Or you can vote to deny the waivers based on the requirements that they're saying they're gonna have to meet. So, If you're not gonna, if you're gonna require the condition of approval for them to come back, you probably should deny the waivers, because they'll be coming back for those things.
Okay.
If you grant the waivers, they don't have to come back.
Okay.
So then, that leads you to possible motion 3A, which is to determine that it's complete, which sounds like the direction that you're moving in, and then you would move on to the substantive review, or if you feel uncomfortable, you could make it incomplete and say, come back when all this stuff has been submitted. So 2 paths forward. Determine it's complete, put conditions of approval, or determine it's incomplete because you don't think that conditions of approval for those things are adequate.
And if we agreed that it was complete with conditions of approval, let's list out the conditions, if that makes sense. So what are conditions are we going to put on this? What do we want them?
Probably for that,
2A?
John, if you're gonna do that, I think we'll be moving through the findings for all of those things, and you can discuss at that point when they come up, do we need a condition of approval for that or not? It's another option, rather than trying to remember everything for which you might need a condition of approval to cover it.
Okay, but if we say it's complete.
Yep,
Can we then?
yes, you're saying the application is complete enough for you to make a decision
On the site plan.
on everything that they've submitted. And then, as you go through all of these findings that I've prepared, you can attach conditions of approval, such as on the stormwater, on the wastewater, we are gonna put a condition of approval that they have to come back.
This is on the site plan. Once we get to the next step, is what I'm asking.
Yes, once you go to the substantive review, you can put on whatever conditions you think are appropriate.
So if we approve that it's complete,
Determine that it's complete.
determine that it's complete,
Yep.
then that doesn't, they can't, not that they would, but we can still put conditions on later.
Yes.
They're not waivers.
That's right. All you're doing is you're saying you've got enough information to make a decision on this application. If you determine it's complete. If you determine it's complete, all the other motions are moot.
Does everybody understand that? Are we ready to make a motion that it is or is not complete? I think that's our two choices. It either is complete or it is not complete. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that the application is complete.
And a second?
Well, second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion?
There will be following conditions, so.
Well, that's what I want to do. We don't want to say that here,
You
though,
don't
right?
need to do
No.
that. No.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha. Okay, so, been moved and seconded, if no further discussion, seeing none, raise your hand if you vote to approve. It is unanimous, 4-0.
Yay.
Well,
Check it off the list.
okay, that's 2 out of 3 done.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have prepared findings based on all the record. As we go through these, obviously, what you see on here is consistent with the agenda notes, but there are some new items that were brought up tonight, such as the clarification on the site distances, so we can add those to these as findings as you go through these. And then for each of these findings, there will be the typical motion language in here for it, and then you'll all vote on each individual criterion being met or not met. And at that point, you can add the thought that this is gonna need a condition of approval. When we get to the end, we can list what those conditions of approval are gonna be.
Yes, sir.
Sarah? Those findings are already, they were on the original, I believe.
This is updated.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
So,
Okay, well, I think the ball is back in your court. And thank you for the help with that last one, Mr. Thamarsh. Did you want to make comments on the site plan approval? Anybody need to take a break? Okay, I think this is probably a good time to say that we've already talked about a lot of this stuff, but we'll probably need to, if we wanna finish this tonight, work through it, or, I don't think the last thing we've got on picking a date is gonna take us all that long, but we do need to remember that.
Okay, so the first finding just lists all of the submissions. And it goes right down through everything that we've talked about. So then there are actually 22 different items, including the waiver request, but it sounds like that is no longer being requested. So you can make a decision motion whether they have or have not met the submission requirements.
Didn't we just do that? Is that not the same thing as the completion?
Well, this is the site plan, this is the findings of fact for the overall site plan review. You've already determined that the application is complete. This is under the ordinance, a requirement that they have everything, and this indicates that they were requesting waivers, so you probably want to vote to strike number 22, because that's no longer, the waiver requests are off the table. And then if you're comfortable with that, then you'd go on and make a motion that they have met the submission requirement standards.
Okay, and Mark, since you're new and applicants are new, so we'll vote on each of these individually that you see here, so we'll make that motion, we'll vote yea or nay. And so we'll just go through those, and then if we've, as an example, we feel they've given us everything that they were supposed to, then do I have a motion that it says that?
I will make a motion that the applicant has met the submission requirements for site plan approval, except for item number 22, which is the waiver request that can be removed.
So your motion would have a period at the submission requirements for site plan approval, period, and we'd line through, except those specifically waived.
Right.
Did I put words in your mouth?
Under the I could read all the findings, but I don't think we need to.
No.
I mean, it'll be on record that the findings 1 through 21 would be included in that motion.
Okay. A second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, raise your hand if you approve, recommend or vote for approval. Okay, 4-0.
Okay, next one is the utilization of the site. Again, I referred to the 2-foot contours on the plan. The qualifier by the consultants that they haven't done any engineering review or permitting, that there is no narrative analysis, how construction will conform to the existing topography, that the applicant requested a waiver, and the applicant submitted an erosion control narrative. Those are the facts going into this meeting.
Okay, so if I've understood the previous discussions on this one, was where we would put in any conditions about, condition upon approval of
Yes.
sanitary,
The stormwater.
yeah, the design, condition of approval on that.
So I think you want to add another finding, number 6, based on tonight's testimony, that a state stormwater permit will be required. And then a number 7, which would be that the board will add a condition of approval requiring submission of that plan before permits are issued. To the planning board, just to clarify. Before permits are issued by the town. So 5 would be a fact that a state permit is required for stormwater, and that you will add a condition of approval on requiring the applicant to submit the permits from the state to the planning board prior to the town issuing any permits.
Okay, so on this one, we're talking about stormwater. So that takes care of that one. On one of these others, we will talk about adequacy of road system, vehicular access into, but we'll talk about environmental or something later. So the DEP approval is in this one, but the sanitary, the
Yeah.
septic system design will get covered where?
Do the same thing when we get there.
Okay, we're not there yet, okay. And we're deleting 6? Or 5, rather?
No, that's still a fact.
So we have 7.
That's part of your basis for
Okay.
Okay.
doing, making a decision. So we've added 6 and 7.
Okay, can I get a motion on that? Someone?
I will move, the site plan reflects natural capability of the site to support the development, building, and parking are located on suitable land. Environmentally sensitive portions of site have been avoided and protected, and natural drainage is maintained to the maximum extent practical, and include items 1 through 5 and add an additional one, which would be state DEP stormwater plan is required. And number 7 would be a final plan will be submitted to the planning board before issuing any permits
By the town.
by the town, right?
Yep.
Right.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion?
Yeah, I didn't wanna just say permits and say permits from who? State or, yeah.
With everybody. The only question I had, and I said 5 when I really meant 4 before, do we reference the fact that they requested a waiver? Should we say somewhere that we didn't require it? How do we wanna do it, or just
But
delete them?
we removed it from the previous vote, the waiver request.
But it's now here in this one. Number 4 on the motion you just made includes the applicant requested waiver of submission of a stormwater management plan. And
So you can strike that one as well.
would you amend your
Okay,
motion?
the motion would be revised to it would actually be 1 through 3 and renumbering 5 as 4 and adding the additional of 5 and 6. So we would strike the original number 4.
Would you amend your second? Brian?
Amended.
Okay, I'm sorry for not seeing that earlier. So it has been moved and amended. Any further discussion? And seconded, rather. If not, I will call the vote. If in favor, 4-0.
And then the 2 findings on the adequacy of the road system are that the state-owned road has adequate capacity to accommodate the traffic, and it will not generate peak hour trips that raise concerns for traffic safety.
And is this where we say that we have confirmed the?
No, that's on the access to the
Okay,
site.
yeah, give access to site. Okay, thank you.
I think whenever one of the requirements about peak road trips, that's usually, town roads, not state roads.
I would agree. Any other discussion? If not, I'll accept a motion.
I'll share.
I will make a motion. Then we'll get back to Brian and Mark. I'm making a motion that the access road has the capacity to take, and I would use have, since it's only a road, access road has the capacity to take the added traffic proposed, and the project does not generate peak hour trips that affect traffic safety on those road. And then I'm not sure what traffic analysis for projects with more than 100 peak road trips.
Yep.
I would not use that one.
I would agree, because like I say, that's.
So
only
my,
town roads.
my motion will stop, reread it, since I've been criticized in the past. Access road has the capacity to take the added traffic proposed, and the project does not generate peak hour trips that affect traffic safety on those roads.
A second.
Okay, moved and seconded, Talbot and Brian. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please raise your hand, 4-0.
All right, next criterion, standard is vehicular access to the site. And the facts up to this meeting were that it has a posted speed limit on 136 of 50 miles per hour. There are vertical and horizontal curves on both approaches. And the applicant submitted a DOT diagram with a disclaimer and provided no safe site distances, and that is incorrect. So we'll want to add or substitute strike 4 and add a new 4, which would be that the site distances are 500 feet as determined by mainland consultants. And then finally, the board members did express concerns with the safety of the exiting and entering large RVs.
Okay, some thoughts from me to get the discussion started. Can we just leave number 4 and say the applicant has provided a safe site distance measurement by a qualified professional documenting that site distances are adequate at the project entrance?
Yes, substitute that in
Just
for
take,
4.
just delete no.
Yep,
And then, I am concerned about number 5. We did talk about that, but does that, if we say we are concerned, and somebody gets killed, why, do they come back and say, why did you approve it then?
because you get an engineer to determine that there are adequate safe sites and site distances, and that's all you can do. They've met the standard of the ordinance.
I guess, just, this is probably chicken, but I would put that before, I'd make number 5, number 4, number 4, number 5.
Yep.
That says, okay, we did talk about safety distances, and they answered the question. And
Yep,
as part of that, we require them to get safe distances, and they've done that.
got it.
Anybody, any additional thoughts on this one? Seeing none, I'm gonna let you guys make motions in a second, but since I changed everything around, I will make the motion that the project entrances meet safe site distances and are appropriately spaced to meet traffic safety standards at the findings of the existing project entrance located on Route 136, which has a posted speed limit of 50 miles per hour. There are vertical and horizontal curves in both approaches to the project, and the project entrance. The applicant submitted a Maine Department of Transportation general diagram of Durham Leisure Campground with disclaimer on liability for injuries or damages dated 12/12/23. Board members expressed concern with the safety of entering and exiting the site with large RVs. And finally, the applicant has provided a safe site distance measurement by a qualified professional documenting that site distances are adequate at the project entrance period.
Who
Mark,
did?
Mark was, Mark is a good practice for making the motion. Okay, it's been moved and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, do we have a vote? We have, I'm sorry, please vote. We have a vote, 4-0. Internal vehicular circulation. Brian, I'll let you take this one on.
Any discussion?
I do. This is where we make it a condition for the stormwater plan, the DEP permit, and the stormwater plan?
Yes.
Is it, or is it? Parking layout
I
design?
think this is the one, because it's the road construction and the utilities are gonna cause the concerns.
I'm just looking to see if there's another place to put that in, the stormwater piece.
I don't think so.
Bear with us.
Pretty
So I think, yes, so we,
cut and dry right here, number 7.
7 to 8.
So I think you would want to add that number 9, that the board will add a condition requiring the stormwater permit to be submitted prior to the issuance of any town permits.
is that not already covered in A, utilization of the site?
I
We're
think
talking about
it is, you could do that, yeah.
I mean, we put it twice.
But for this one, it'll satisfy this criterion. So I think if you put it twice, it's appropriate.
Can never do it too many times. Okay. So I'm sorry, George, I interrupted you. Would you
Yeah,
go?
so it would be that the board is gonna apply a condition of approval requiring the applicant to submit the state permits before any town permits are issued.
Okay. Okay, some potential crossouts. We've got 5 mile per hour, speed limit signs. Just, okay, all that. Can we put in the findings that the applicant has on their, whatever date of the existing plan, added additional signage, stop signs, and what else did you add?
Well, I think that's what these are referring to. The stop signs and the 5 mile per hour speed limit signs were added by the applicant since your last review.
Okay,
So I think they're covered.
all this is covered. And then I had another brilliant thought. A condition of approval on, site numbering and direction signs.
Let me see if that's covered.
Are you okay, you understand what we're
Yes, I
saying?
do.
is-
I've seen it at campgrounds.
There is a signage.
Yes, signage,
Never mind.
the signage, no, it could be either, but signage might be better.
As long as we add it in that place.
Yep.
The new guy corrected me. Okay, and so your number 9, George, was,
The board will do a condition of approval requiring the applicant to submit state permits before the town permits are issued. Which addresses those stormwater parts of it.
okay. Anybody want to take this one on? Make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you,
that
sir.
The site plan minimizes cut and fill alterations and provides adequate room for safe operations. The entrance and circulation are adequate for the types of vehicles anticipated, and fire lanes around buildings are adequate and clearly marked.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, please raise your hand if you approve. Vote to approve. All right. Parking layout and design.
And there's just one finding that all the parking for this RV sites is gonna be on the RV sites
For the expanded,
for the
okay.
expansion.
Any discussion? We're on number Echo, parking layout and design. No discussion, do I have a motion?
Proposed parking, this is on, let's see, what are we talking about? E, parking layout and design. Proposed parking meets the design standards for setback, aisles and parking spaces, signage, prevention of damage to lighting and landscaping, and for safe pedestrian access.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? Seeing none, please raise your hand to approve. 4-0.
And on utilities, that's where I think the other condition really bears down, which is, so I described the existing condition plans, what it has on it. And the applicants submitted proposal for engineering designs, as well as this testimony tonight that they're gonna have to do that.
So a condition on this one would be that, we've been talking about stormwater in the past, but use the same verbiage for the sanitary, or the
Yeah.
sewer system. But a condition of approval that applicant will submit state approvals for sanitary system, is that what it's called, septic system, I mean, the full septic system, lines, the whole 9 yards.
Engineered system, yeah.
Engineer, full engineer system.
And engineering design for the wastewater system, right? They're saying that's gonna be required for the
Yes,
state.
that would be a condition of approval. George, you wanna read that out for us, what you're writing there?
Yep. So the planning board will place a condition of approval for state permits and engineering design for the system to be submitted to the planning board prior to the issuance of town permits.
Okay. Whoever's gonna make that motion, hopefully got it. Number 2, the applicant, number 2 under those findings. So, okay, the applicant submitted an unsigned proposal, but no engineering design analysis is provided for other utilities, but number 3 is, they will provide it before permits are
Correct.
granted. Okay. Do I have a motion? Mark,
Make
did
a
you-
motion that
Okay, right.
adequate utilities are provided and placed underground and adequately screened.
With the condition of, that George read off?
Yeah.
Okay. So all of that plus the condition. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, if you vote to approve, please raise your hand. Okay, lighting, okay, this one's gonna be yours, Mark. Lighting design standards. Any comments? The electrical components have been provided in the, earlier, I do remember that. So, whatever it was, the first one we did, conditional, whatever it was. Okay, do we have any comments? If not, I will accept a motion.
will make a motion. That
Go forth.
the lighting plan provides adequate illumination meeting ordinance limitations and preventing glare from creating a nuisance for abutters or the public.
Second.
Well, it had been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those who approve, raise a hand. 4-0. Now we're on to signage.
So I think you do want to add some findings on this in terms of what you're looking at.
I
in
think
terms
we
of
do.
signage.
I think we'd like to add a finding that, where it said, or either delete number 1, because he did put signs on the plan.
Well, again, the section 5.24 talks about the sizes of signs and locations of signs, which go beyond the limited information that they've provided. But given that this is all internal signage, you may be fine with that. And also, you saw the signs that are out there, what they've described doing, so I don't think there are any issues in terms of any of these signs not meeting the limitations of the section 5.24.
So what we could do is in number 2, it said, okay, the applicant did provide a plan showing the location of additional stop and speed limit signs.
So what you would do is find that the sign information submitted by the applicant is adequate to determine that there would be no violations of the sign regulations in 5.24.
Much better. Did anybody write that down? I would like a motion with that last thing.
I would think that we also need to add logical numbering to quickly locate lots in case of emergency and approved by the fire chief.
Yes, that this is how we do it here, and or the next one is fire, but if we want to do it, okay, so,
Well, there's signage.
okay, signage it is. So number 2, George, would you read number 2 again so we can write it down and make a motion? We're still under signage.
Okay, so 2 was the sign information submitted is adequate to determine that there is compliance with 5.24. And then 3 would be the site numbering is to be renumbered per what? Per review by the fire chief?
Yes, yeah. Review and approval by the fire chief.
That's fine.
And I will brief him on this discussion.
Prima. So you want to read that one for the motion?
Yep, so
Please.
the site numbering is to be renumbered per a review by the fire chief for safety purposes.
Approved by fire chief for safety purposes. Okay, so the findings, as I've got them, the application provides no detailed design, as it shows there, no detailed design information on the proposed signage to verify compliance with section 5.24. The signage information provided is adequate. Is that what we said
Yes.
for number 2? Number 3 is the site numbering is to be approved by fire chief for safety purposes prior to permit. I'll throw that in there. Okay, since I'm reading, I'll just go ahead and finish this one. So I'll make the motion that all signs do not meet the requirements of, do meet.
Just cross out do not meet.
But, okay, they don't really, okay, we can leave that as that. Do we want to make a condition of approval?
Yes, number 3 is gonna be a condition.
Okay, the number 3 is a condition, that's my ask. So with the findings, the application provides no detailed design information on the proposed signage to verify compliance with section 5.24. Number 2, the signage information provided is adequate. Number 3, the site, spelled correctly, numbering is to be approved by fire chief. Numbering, how about if I'm gonna change that, and add one more word. The site numbering plan is to be approved by fire chief for safety purpose prior to town permits. And the applicant knows what we're looking for in that one. That's been moved by Talbot,
Second?
moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please raise your hand if you approve. Fire protection.
So the applicant is proposing to put a 2,000-gallon water storage tank. The fire chief has said that that is adequate.
Did the chief tell you where he wanted them? I'm sorry, I started discussion.
That is just one, and it is on the print where I showed him where it
That
was.
would
and he
be
said
the-
that would be great.
It's like right. Because you don't have a pond, you were gonna use the swimming pool.
Thank you.
Use the swimming pool as one. Well, if you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
right, that's right.
Absolutely.
Okay, hookups to your tank, I got you.
I told him just throw it in the pool, it's 25,000 gallons over
He'll
there.
probably do both.
Yeah, he says if it's, well,
We'll have one on the other.
if it's
end.
snowing, it depends what time of year, but you're not gonna be
You
out
don't
there.
heat it now?
Okay, so we've got the fine, do I have a,
I will make a motion that the water supply will sustain fire suppression requirements of NFPA 1142, water supplies for suburban and rural firefighting, which will include the findings of the existing condition plan shows a conceptual location for a 2,000-gallon water storage tank, and the applicant has stated that fire department hookups will be provided. And number 2, under the findings, the fire chief has indicated that the proposed water supply is adequate for fighting fire purposes.
we have a motion, a second?
Second.
Mark seconded it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please raise your hand if you vote to approve. 4-zip. Thank you. General buffering standards. Any comments?
I guess there are no concerns as for buffering for any adjoining property owner that, you know, it doesn't look like that you're looking to exceed, come up to, I don't know, how many feet are you away from the adjoining butters?
500 feet.
500 feet, so it's not an issue.
And I think those who attended, the neighbors had no issues. I remember when we were walking
Right.
through the woods
Right.
there. Okay, any other, can I get a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion that the applicant's landscaping plan adequately buffers abutters and the public from views of parking, garbage storage, utilities, and outdoor storage, and is designed for adequate long-term maintenance.
A second?
Second.
That's
Moved.
interesting. What's the garbage storage?
It's a dumpster.
Okay,
Yeah, we
But
have
it's
dumpsters.
it's up in the park, right? It's not on the street.
No,
It's at the top of the
it's at
hill,
it's
like,
right
before
by
you
the
hit the
parking lot,
pool.
whereas you guys came in to the
Yeah.
pool, it's right by the pool to the left. As they go out, they can throw their trash
so
out.
what size is
It's up
it? Is
here.
it,
It's up
I
here.
think it's a 6-yard.
okay, it's a big one.
And you have a private, you have a contract?
Oh, yeah, that's
Oh,
all.
yeah.
To sell or somebody comes and
Yeah.
gets it?
And when there's more trash, we just have them come earn more.
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't wanna have that hanging around in July
Yeah.
for very long.
No, not at all.
Do I have a motion? Or do we have a motion?
We have a motion.
I lose track. All right, if you vote to approve, please raise your hand.
Was there a second?
Yes,
I
it
second
was.
it. Yes, there was.
4-zip.
Yes.
4-0. Historic and archaeological resources.
Okay, I think if you just flip 1 and 2, then you've got the original stating that they were gonna issue a letter, and then the Kirk Mahoney stamp is the letter.
1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 1. Okay, any discussion?
Holy mackerel, George, this is a lot of work for you.
Well, you know, it may seem like overkill,
Nice
but-
job, though.
No, I did,
You
I'm
did
not
a great
complaining, I'm just like,
job.
wow.
But just for you
Going
on the
through all this
board,
stuff is-
one thing for you on the board is that the issue is if they don't apply this to you,
Yeah,
Yeah,
then there's a problem when they are a project where it does make a difference.
yeah.
no, it's good.
And we have nothing else to do this evening. Okay, historic, do we have a motion on historic and archaeological?
I'll make a motion that there are no historic or archaeological resources on the site that would be affected by the project's development.
Second.
Moved and by Brian, seconded by Alan. Further discussion? If not, please raise a hand and vote for approval. Financial capacity.
So I just indicated from the conditional use application, his information on how much it's gonna cost, how much they have, with a bank letter verifying, but they have not submitted any engineering-based costs. So you may wanna put down on there the condition of approval, that they have to get the state approvals, which will give some of those details.
So basically the same state approvals we've already asked for.
Now, one question will be, will you be concerned at that point, whether they have the adequate financial capacity to do this project? Once you see, should that be accompanied by an engineering cost estimate, which they will probably get anyway, just for your bidding purposes or whatever?
Do you plan to get any kind of estimate from contractors?
Oh, way, yeah, I would assume
Yeah,
before we start.
yeah, we are,
Engineer,
but I don't
engineering.
want that to be a condition of use, I gotta, you know, is that what we're doing now, is a condition of uses, right? I have to-
It would be,
I
yes.
have to, I'd rather not do that. You know? I mean, we went from, 209 sites down to 40, so it's a little bit different.
So the bank approval, refresh my memory, was for 40 or 209?
209, yeah. Yeah. And
Thoughts?
these were cash accounts, these weren't, this is money that we have, not including whatever,
Assets.
yeah, whatever, but.
You're not conditioning on winning the lottery?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money sitting around doing nothing, I can tell you that right now.
I would certainly think that based on what the Bangor Savings Bank has stated in the amount there, $675,000, and that was based on the original sites, and it's been reduced, I would think that would more than cover for their engineering-based cost estimates.
Any other thoughts? I mean, I would agree with that. Okay, having said that, can I get a let's see, and George, you recommended, I think we've already done that do we need to say again that we need to see the plans?
Well, the only reason you would think about adding it here is to verify that you have determined that they have adequate financial capacity. One indication of that will be the issuance of the state permits.
I think we've
Is
seen it.
that because the state will require financial capacity?
I don't think so.
Not necessarily,
No, I
but
don't think
at
it is.
least you will have an indication that this is going to be a properly designed system.
Yeah, I don't know that we, no
So, or
offense.
you could just not put anything in there.
Yeah, we'll get proof of the design, right, prior to
Right, that's
getting
right.
the town permit.
My apologies for that. Say that again, I'm sorry. I'm shutting my phone off.
Yeah, the issuance of the state permits is not gonna address financial capacity.
Right.
Okay. I'm good with the fact the bank said they got 675 and it's a smaller project.
So what was the original
100
lot?
209,
209, and it's
Yeah.
reduced down to 40, right?
yeah. Was reduced down to like 100 and something, then it was reduced down to 40, so
In
we're
your
fine
mind,
with
your
that,
head.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, go big or go home.
So I would think under 2, when it says the deposit accounts in excess of 675,000 based on 209 lots, which has been reduced to 40.
Thoughts?
I'm okay with that.
By putting that in there, from when I'm reading it, it justifies the financial coverage.
I would agree.
Just a suggestion, that may fit better on number 1 than number 2.
I was just thinking that same thing. Number
Okay.
2 is what they have in the bank, number 1 is the project cost.
Okay, that's,
So add that caveat of it's been reduced down in number 1 where the project estimate for the original was 700,000.
And Alan, would you like to take a shot at that motion, please?
no.
Okay, Mark, would you like to take a shot at that?
The applicant, under the findings, the applicant stated during the conditional use review, the project is estimated to cost 700,000 plus or minus, and the project will be financed from personal savings. The original 700,000 was based on 209 units, which has now been reduced to 40. So I will make a motion that includes that adjustment there, and the applicant does have adequate financial resources to construct improvements in keeping with the standards.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please raise a hand to approve. 4-0. Next is technical ability.
So he submitted the existing conditions plan with the layout. That has not been through any engineering design review. You received no direct input from qualified professionals on this project. And so the question is, are you satisfied with the presentation or not? Those are the facts.
Last one. But I think,
Conditions of approval may or may not address that.
yeah, I would like a statement that said, because we are going to see the missing stuff.
So then that would be number 4, which is the planning board condition of approval to see the permits, state permits with the design prior to issuance of town permits. So that addresses the technical capacity.
Okay, so if I wrote this down, planning board will review, state permits and engineering plans prior to, I say review, because we're not really gonna look at the engineering plans per se.
They're gonna submit them.
Yeah, but are we gonna, when I say review, it's like,
They're just required to submit those.
okay. So if I say planning board reviews, plans prior to issuing allowing issuing or issuing town permits, is that what you,
Yeah, well, on all of these, I'll draft some language based on what we've discussed and what you've decided.
okay,
And I'll circulate that to the board like I did for the conditional use permit, and you can comment on it.
everybody okay with that?
So we're not motioning on this one.
Yes, you are making a condition of approval, the same as the others for the permits and the designs to be
He will
submitted to
tweak
the
it,
board. Yep,
to correct my English. And then we'll get a chance to look at that. If we disagree with it, we won't. What do we actually sign on these things, George? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
do we
At the end of
sign-
at the end of the day, this is gonna be converted into a notice of decision, giving the approval, if you vote that way. And then we will attach these findings and the votes on each of the individual findings.
Okay.
Now, one of the issues for having a site plan, is the ordinance talks about the planning board signs it. There is a signature block for the planning board if you're comfortable with this existing conditions plan being the site plan. So you will sign this plan if you're satisfied.
So the hangup has kind of been the term existing conditions plan.
Yeah,
If we were to make it conditional on changing that to site plan, would that eliminate that concern? I mean, it's a legitimate concern.
it is, but it sounds like you're satisfied that this is an adequate site plan, so I guess you could require them to change that name, change it to a site plan title, and then when it comes back with the other documents, you can sign it.
That would be my thought, because you have to take, your guy here has to take draft off of it. So if he could also change existing condition plans to site plan, that would, I suspect, check a block for us. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, I guess. We can go through that again.
Well, no, all he does is, he's gotta take draft off,
Oh, yeah.
and then, so that's a relatively simple change to.
It's $500, take that whole word off of that, but that's okay.
You probably get some white out of it.
Oh, my gosh.
How you do it.
It's, nothing's free. That's okay. Here's what it is.
Never is it? Just the air you breathe.
Okay, so have we, do we have a motion on we're past technical, no, we're still on technical ability, are we not?
We are.
Okay, so I need a motion on technical ability.
I make a motion that the applicant has experience with site development and has retained qualified consultants and contractors to complete the project in keeping with the standards.
Now, second? And we're adding a number 4.
I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
What was the number 4? Is it state permits?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Engineering
four
design
is
and state
the,
permits.
four is the, prior to any permits by the town, they've gotta submit to the planning board the
Yep.
state permits and the design. And then 5 would be, you want the, existing conditions plan to be revised to correct, to be
Sure.
correct.
That way nobody forgets it. Yes. So 5 would be,
Revise the existing conditions plan to be, meet the site plan requirements.
The revision is just to change wording, right?
Clean it up.
that's what I was asking, yes. You're suggesting.
And want all the conditions be listed on that plan also, once we get to that end? Usually they are. Should they be?
State law for subdivisions requires you to put the conditions on the plan, but not site plan.
Well, the great thing about that, when that happens, is sometimes it's easier to look at a plan which has all the information on it that you want, versus, where's all the votes that we had? I don't know, either way.
It's up to you.
No, that's good. Our site plans have required that in the past. And the advantage to doing that, I realize it's a little more work, is that it's there. So 10 years from now, if
It's one
somebody comes
document,
along, it's been done. So we need to make sure that we have a list of conditional conditions, correct, right?
Yeah, we'll do that. So you would actually include that in number 5 to revise the existing conditions plan to meet the site plan requirements and list the COAs, the conditions of approval.
On the print.
on the, I would, you know, since you're gonna revise it anyway, you would think, I'm just. when
You can just
look at-
copy and
No,
paste
it's
from,
fine.
It's one of those
copy and
things,
paste from the
believe me,
notice of decision.
I've looked at some of these plans that were
Charge per
done
letter.
10 years ago. Believe me, it's much easier looking on one piece of paper versus,
I don't,
okay, where are all the bolts? Because something's missing.
yeah, I mean, quite truthfully, that's, when you go to sell this, when it goes to,
Sell
We're
it.
more
We
likely-
Can't afford to sell that.
when your children,
When somebody inherits it.
that's right, when you go home tonight and do whatever, you don't have to worry about, you know, what were our conditions of approval. And to make it easier for, actually for your state inspector and everybody else if it's all there. So yes, so you wanna make a motion to that effect, Alan?
Well, under the part where it's additional, addition to the existing plan to be revised to include all conditional uses,
Conditions of approval.
conditions of approval.
Okay, I'll take a shot at it here since I took the time to write it down. So, I will make a motion. The applicant has the experience with site development and/or has retained qualified consultants and contractors to complete the project in keeping with the standards. And so, findings 1 through 3 as provided here, and adding, planning board reviews state and local state permits prior to issuing town permits. Is that close to what we wanted?
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Pardon me?
we already had a motion on the floor and it hadn't been voted on, so I would think we should
have to amend
retract, we should retract that initial.
If you
I'll
will, I'll
retract.
withdraw my motion.
There we go.
Okay, it's been withdrawn. You wanna try it again, or should I make it
No,
another?
you-
You're right, we gotta, otherwise somebody be sitting there talking about Bailey's Rules of Order or whatever. The applicant submitted an existing, okay, findings. The applicant has the experience with site development and has retained qualified consultants and contractors to complete the project in keeping with the standards. With the findings 1 through 3 as typed here, and number 4, the planning board will review plans and state approvals prior to issuing town plan permits. And then number 5, the revised existing conditions plan to say site plan and include conditions of approval. Is that close enough? Does that get it?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Please raise a hand to approve. 4-0. We have no waivers, correct?
Correct.
Okay, the waivers of performance standards.
No waivers.
We have no
Skip that whole part.
waivers, and so then we,
Could jump right to conditions of approval, and the one condition of approval that you have discussed, which will be applied to most of these, was the requirement for the state permits and design to be submitted. The other conditions that you have talked about include the sign information. Maybe we should just start right back and go down through them. So COA,
so I'm sorry, you're on the very last thing on page 10 of what you gave us, motion made by? So, waivers of performance standards.
yeah, I
That's the
don't,
conditions
I
of
didn't
approval.
have a
Conditions of
separate
approval.
thing for conditions of approval, but we can just add them on the end.
Performance standards, is that what you're saying?
Nope,
No.
no, I'm saying just forget everything after waivers,
Right.
and we're gonna jump to page 10, and at the bottom, we're gonna have a decision with draft conditions of approval. We're gonna figure out what those are, going down through the list right now.
Okay.
Okay,
Does that
so,
work?
go ahead.
All right, so if we go back and make sure I don't miss any.
That'd be awful.
The first one was on page 3, which was the first time that we mentioned the state permits being submitted. That was number 7 on the revised motion. So the state permits, which is repeated multiple times. You only need it once on the conditions of approval.
Okay.
Then the next one was, I think it's on page 6 at the bottom for the signage.
I've got one on 5, page 5.
Which one, what is it?
It is internal vehicular circulation, number 9, condition approval that applicant will submit state approvals. We repeated, is that?
That's what I was
repeat?
saying. Yep.
Jump along.
We only need to put that once at the
Okay.
end. Yep, we got that one? That's good, make sure we don't miss any. Right, Ken?
Thank you. Thank you.
So the next,
Signage.
the next distinguished one is under signage. There were 2 there, which is the information to be submitted for, no, I'm sorry, it's just number 3, which
Number
is the
3.
site numbering and reviewed by the fire chief.
And the existing plan to be revised.
Yeah, and then on page 9, the revisions to the site plan with and adding the conditions of approval. So there are 3.
Okay, so would you read them off?
Yeah, the first one is the universal requirement for the state permits to be submitted to the planning board with engineering designs prior to the issuance of any town approvals or permits.
George, do we need to spell out each one of those? There's stormwater, there's.
Yes, we've already mentioned them going down through, I'm just summarizing them. So I will send you a draft early next week, which gives the specific wording, and you can make sure that it's included. Okay?
Yep.
I'll give you the total one, which should cover all of them. And then the second condition of approval.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Yep.
I just want to, if I'm going to make this, I want to make sure, engineering design prior to permits.
Yeah, state permit issuance with the engineering designs of the wastewater system.
Okay. Okay, I
And
got
then
that
the-
one.
The second one is the signage revisions, which deals with the numbering and getting that reviewed by the fire chief for safety purposes. And then the third and final draft. Yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, next.
The third and final one is the revisions to the existing conditions plan to restate it as a site plan, eliminate the draft, and then to add the conditions of approval, which would just be these 3.
Okay, I'm gonna take a shot at this. If everybody's okay with it. So, motion made by, the applicant has provided documentation based on sound engineering and/or environmental analysis. The following standards can be weighed for the proposed, you
No,
wanna say weighed?
No.
no, I would just say you move to approve, to grant site plan approval based on the findings of fact and conditions of approval.
I was getting excited there.
The applicant has provided documentation based on sound engineering and/or environmental analysis, and
No, we're
you don't want
not,
any of that.
we're not doing anything to do with waivers.
Just get rid of that whole
Okay,
damn
so
thing.
you're gonna move to give site plan approval based on the findings of fact and with the 3 conditions of approval. And I apologize for not doing that draft for you.
Okay.
But I didn't know where this was gonna end up.
This is a book and a half, just this thing, oh my gosh. We've got 3 more like this on the other side.
Conditions of approval.
Good job.
Yeah, we did good.
Stated below. All right. I make a motion that we give site plan approval based on findings of fact and conditions of approval as stated below. And then you'll list the
Yep.
3 findings of fact,
Or the 3 conditions of approval.
or 3 conditions of approval. Thank you.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Fine.
None? Okay, seeing none, if you vote to approve, please raise a hand. Passes 4-0, congratulations. Thank you for your patience.
Thank
And wish you great success. I guess we'll see you one more time.
Yeah.
So a couple of things,
Can't
you know,
get
you
rid of
can
that.
speed up the process by working with the code guy,
Yeah, yeah.
get the chief, started, get your site plan into the chief.
Yep.
Thank you all for your
Push
time.
hard,
We have one more item, we just need to know when the pool party's gonna be.
It's not off the dock,
Not
can't tell you
this
that. It's not off the dock.
I don't think the town of Durham can handle that in a speedo, so, we'll go with that. Okay, yes, just start working on getting all that stuff together, folks. And we'll get you back on, so do they have to meet the 2 weeks before a meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
We won't have that stuff, not with the state stuff. no.
well, I guess you've got enough to get started with codes and other folks based on
Yeah.
what we approved tonight.
Yeah, I should be able to get the
Okay.
plumbing stuff going and all that stuff, appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I think we are on to Juliet, if you would like to. Okay, so I think the next thing, thank you all for going through that. I think the next thing, we approved minutes, the next thing on the agenda is what's a good day to meet about land use? And as George said earlier, all 3, we should be forwarded to us shortly by the select board. And so our job is to have a public hearing, a formal public hearing, and so it's not discussion as much. And kind of, since people are maybe listening on TV, just kind of a reminder that once we get it back from the select board, there's not really room for changes. So what we're doing is holding a formal hearing as partially to get the information out there, partially for people to comment on it, and I suppose prepare for the town meeting. So we won't vote or do anything else, because it's going on the warrant. What we see from the select board will be on the town warrant.
So, what's the potential on our next regular monthly schedule? Is there
Okay,
anything-
we do have 2 site plans coming in.
Oh, really?
One is for a similar project to the one that you did tonight, where you have an existing business that is doing and expanding, adding a building. So we're gonna get into the same discussion of what do they need to submit for this. So that is for a commercial building on an existing business expansion. So there should be 2 parts to that: conditional use for the expansion, and then site plan review for the construction of the new building. And then CMP is gonna be filing for the March meeting a site plan, a conditional use permit application, a site plan application, and a shoreline zoning permit application to do major work on the power line pole replacement project.
The reason I asked that, I didn't know whether we could fit it
No.
into that.
That was a great idea, but I think,
Yeah.
because the
No, we
public
can't.
hearing, I think we probably need to plan, we'll try to keep it going, that's probably a 2-hour
Yeah,
event.
could be, I mean,
Sorry,
shows
on that note, CMP has to go through us.
Yep, because they're crossing shoreline zone and resource protection.
Got it. That'll be an interesting, anyways, okay.
Yeah.
And how many lawyers do they bring?
You'll have a complete package, I guarantee you that.
Yes. We'll also have to review what we can and,
Can't say to them?
well, no, like, yeah,
What parts of the project are fair game?
yeah,
Yeah,
Only the
exactly.
areas within resource protection and shoreline zoning.
right.
And they understand that.
Yeah, they did this.
So they're gonna prepare, you'll get a complete, you get a lot more information than you want to review.
And then I think, I don't know if it's a concern, a challenge, or whatever, it is a local business that will be coming in on the second one, so there may be discussion about, why do I have to provide that information? So that may take a while as well, plus it's like this one, there's multiple things that have to.
Yeah, so one issue to get a heads up on is, okay, are you going to deal with it, whichever one submits first, they get reviewed first,
Yeah,
okay? As opposed to this small town project should be reviewed before this big state CMP project.
we're not going through the entire, like, well, you know.
Both may take the amount of time, same amount of time, and the local one may take more time, as we just
Right.
experienced.
Yeah,
So is,
whichever comes in
I know.
first and.
yeah, I think that's only fair.
I think it's a surprise to local people as to the process.
Yeah, and I think that's something we can workshop or do down the road is, someone who's just gonna be experienced, which is, you know, if it's required in there, give it to us. You know, we've had a couple of applications now where I've never provided that before, I don't, and some are small time, some are professional engineers with the same thing. I mean, I think with time, people, you know, you can't half-step when you go before
No,
the
you
Durham
can't.
Planning Board, we just need to put an end to that concept.
So what are our options to
Uh,
meet deadline?
The 13th the 2 Wednesdays is a possibility for this room, which I think we need to do somewhere where we can be televised and all that other stuff. So March 13th and March 20th, those are Wednesdays. Either one,
They both work for me.
Yeah, same.
Either one?
okay, 13th?
Yeah.
Okay, March 13th, be here, 6:30, fire station, public hearing. George, you want me to tell the town clerks, et cetera, to book this?
6:30.
6:30 PM here at the fire station. I would, you know, part of it is, we can have a discussion, but we don't necessarily need to have an argument. We're not, you can't change, we've been there, done that, looked at this. If you wanna argue or fight it, prepare for the town hall meeting.
Right.
And if you're very supportive of it, prepare for the town hall meeting.
Well, because we had other public meetings on it.
We've been
therefore,
there, done that, they've had,
That was the time to fine tune it.
people
But-
have, yes.
But I think part of it is, it's not just the, you know, going through the formality. It is an opportunity to explain in more detail than you will at the town meeting. So we can get into the details of this with members of the public, so that when they get to the town meeting, they're informed on what they're voting on.
Well, we
So
would do
even
that.
though but even though you can't make changes to it, it is important to have this opportunity.
Right, and then they can ask questions and.
Yep.
And we can answer questions on it, or.
Yeah, and hopefully they
whatever.
won't have to have as many questions at on the floor of the town meeting if they have this opportunity. Now, many people won't participate, so we'll still be there, but if you cut down on that, that helps the process.
There's many people that come into the town meeting and that's the first time they've seen anything. And so that's the frustrating part.
That is exactly, you know, no matter, it is a challenge. I mean, we can do what we can do, but, you know, there may be 10 people here that night and 150 or something, 250 at the town meeting.
You're dreaming.
At the town meeting?
Yeah, 250?
At the, I counted, last time it was, we can adjourn here shortly, but I think there was 147 yeses and,
And 2 no's.
no, there were two, that was the resource protection was, it wasn't that close, but it was over 200,
The last one.
There used
Yeah.
to be a lot larger attendance when it was all, when school was included in it, yeah. Anyway, that's off subject.
Do we wanna consider asking the CONSCOM?
already did, they'll have a rep here.
Oh, good, okay.
Well, I told them tentatively at 13th, but I think they'll have somebody here either day,
Great.
either night, so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 13, 6:30, fire station, motion to adjourn,
I'll make that motion.
second,
Second.
Raise your hand if you want to go home. It is approved. Thank you, George. Please turn your microphones off. You have to hold the button down in front until the light goes off. Thanks, I appreciate the hard work.